In episode 32 of the SOC Level 2 training series, we're going to begin the incident response process by going through preparation. And incident response as a whole is the concept of when an event occurs, how will you handle that event? How will you respond to that incident? And it comes in phases, and we've touched on this previously in SOC level 1, but we've gone more of a higher level overview on it. And in SOC level 2, we're going to actually kind of dive deeper a little bit into each one of the individual phases. And the very first phase is going to be the preparation phase. So I'm excited about going into this with you. Incident response is one of those really big things that is a security analyst job when you're working in a security operations center and doing a lot of the things that is defensive security, because a lot of times you kind of do whatever you can to be prepared and be proactive, but there are some times where an incident actually occurs, and now you have to be quick and respond to that incident in a timely fashion and then respond to that incident correctly so that you actually handle it properly and then do all of the things that you're supposed to do as we go into the incident response process. If you're serious about your CySec education and want access to me on Discord, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master, and each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me every month, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you will be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. Now, without further ado, let us jump into the preparation video. The incident response module actually has a scenario, an overall scenario that we're going to be going through. And in this particular video, we're going to prepare for the security incidents and configure our logging to gather artifacts and additional evidence. And the module scenario is this. So the organization Swift Spend Financial has hired you as the IR guy, the incident response guy, for our incident response team, which is being finalized. You notice that absolutely nothing had been done so far about documenting the baseline network and system activities. There's barely any documentation to begin with. We're lucky that there's at least a semblance of a foundation of a detection system in place, as the IT has followed security best practices, including turning on the logging for our endpoints, subnetting our different departments, ensuring all the systems are in PowerShell version 5, and enabling event log forwarding. However, you identify some configurations that have not been set up and deem the organization not fully mature, and the objectives here are to understand the need for an incident response capability and to understand the need for the process, people, and technologies for incident response. The prerequisites for this would be to finish SOC Level 1. So if you have not gone through SOC Level 1, there's an entire playlist that's dedicated to it. I completed every single room in SOC Level 1, and it's all recorded for you. So if you have not gone through that, I would highly recommend that you do. And if you're not going to, if you want to kind of like cheat it a little bit, then at the very least watch the incident response videos so that at least you have some kind of a foundation for the rest of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. But that's pretty much it for the intro. So let's talk about the incident response capability. So one of the things that we talked about in SOC Level 1 is the fact that digital forensics and incident response kind of go hand in hand together. In fact, the full acronym is DFIR, and it's Digital Forensics Incident Response. And in order to be able to do proper incident response, you need to also be familiar with digital forensics concepts. So in digital response, or also known as incident handling, a cybersecurity function, or it is a cybersecurity function, that uses various methodologies, tools, and techniques to detect and manage adversarial attacks while minimizing impact, recovery time, and total operating cost. Addressing attacks requires containing malware infections, identifying and remediating vulnerabilities, as well as sourcing, managing, and deploying technical and non-technical personnel. So setting up an incident response capability requires you to make decisions, and usually you have to do, if you do a really good job in advance, you can do a really good job live as the incident is occurring. And you need to have a specific definition for the term incident to fit a clear scope. So this is the way that we go ahead and respond to these, or categorize these things, I should say. So an event is the observed occurrence within a system or a network. It ranges from a user connecting to a file server or sending emails or anti-malware software blocking an infection. The incident is the violation of security policies or practices by an adversary to negatively affect the organization through actions like exfiltrating data, encrypting through ransomware, or causing a denial of service. And I'll even go a step further, and I would say that it's not necessarily an adversary that causes an incident. Sometimes it's an unknowing internal employee or a knowing internal employee that, I guess in that case, if they know that they're causing this, then they would be an adversary. But sometimes it's people that weren't trained enough, or they're unaware of what's going on, and they accidentally do something that they shouldn't have done, and all of a sudden data has been exfiltrated, and now you have an incident that you need to worry about. So it could be caused by somebody who is inside of the organization that is not intending to be malicious, but it just so happens that they caused an incident. An event is literally anything that is inside of your logs. So somebody connecting to a server, somebody logging in, somebody failing their login, but it's like an innocent fail because they were on vacation for 3 weeks and they came back and they forgot their password, whatever. So it's like events happen all the time, and your logs are going to be filled with events. Incidents should not be happening all the time, especially if you have a strong security posture. And the definition of an incident is when something happens that it negatively affects the organization. So that's a really big difference between event and incident. So incident response process is an overview, or I guess as an overview, we're going to look at it. And it's meant to serve as a roadmap, allowing you to adapt as you move through your investigation and mitigation. The very first step is preparation, and everything else will be tackled as we move along this module, and each one of the steps is going to have its own video dedicated to it because we're going to take a deeper dive into it. So these are the overview of these steps. So you have preparation, identification, analysis or scoping, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned, and then you'll start again, and then you'll go from the very top, and then you'll go preparation. So it's like literally lessons learned is kind of like a big part of preparation, because you would add all of your lessons to your preparatory responsibilities or preparatory steps. So preparation ensures that the organization can actually react to a breach with laid down procedures. And once you've gone through this thing and you've done recovery and then you're doing lessons learned, you put all of those lessons in the preparation plan again, so that you can effectively react to another breach, and you would hopefully never have to deal with the same kind of incident. You only hopefully, in a great environment, in an ideal situation, you would only deal with one incident one time, and then never have to deal with it again, because you did really good lessons learned, and then you prepared so that it never happens again. So identification is the operational deviations must be noted and determined to cause adverse effects. So you need to just figure out what those deviations are that could actually cause those adverse effects. Analysis or scoping has to do with basically the tools that you're going to be using and how you're going to identify the systems, number one, that are going to be inside of that scope, and then the type of data that's going to be inside of that scope, and the potential impact on the organization if any of that data was actually going to be leaked or stolen or destroyed, right? Systems are crashed. What is that going to do to the company? So it's the extent of the security incident is what analysis and scoping really does. And then containment is when something happens, you need to limit the impact of that exploit or that incident. Somebody's gotten into your system. You need to limit them from not being able to leave that system and go to the rest of the systems, or if they're inside of a specific segment, they shouldn't be able to leave that segment and go to the other segments inside of your network. So it's isolation is another term that we use for this. It's the isolating of the affected system, and preserving forensic evidence is a very, very big part of containment. And the preserving part is actually also really important, because sometimes if somebody finds out that they've been caught, Like if a hacker finds out that they've been caught, they'll erase all of their tracks and then they'll wipe the system or something as a retaliation. And it's like, okay, well, you definitely don't want that to happen either. And then we have eradication. So once you've caught them, you've contained them, they're isolated, they can't go anywhere else. You need to get rid of them without them causing any extra harm. So all of the adversarial artifacts and techniques should be removed. Ransomware should be deleted, or whatever, some kind of malware, anything that they've installed or anything that they've done. All of their traces of hazardous material should all be deleted and eradicated. And then recovery and lessons learned. So obviously you need to get back to business as usual. You need to learn the lessons from the incident that took place and then add those lessons to your preparation phase so that hopefully it doesn't happen again. And it is a cyclical process. It is a continuous process. It's never ending. Incident response, preparation, and going through this whole thing, it's not a one-time thing, is what I'm going to say. Because you probably won't have incidents all the time. Ideally, hopefully you won't have incidents all the time. But at the very least, you should be doing a review of your incident response process once a quarter or once every 6 months, and then doing tests like rehearsals and tabletop exercises and all of these practice exercises so that you can be ahead of the malicious actors. The need for the incident response plan is a very big concept, and everybody should have it. And it's not a would be nice to have. It's, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions, this is a must-have kind of a thing. So the incident response plan is a document, basically, or a binder, or a Google Doc folder that has a bunch of stuff in it, whatever. You should probably have both versions, a digital version inside of your cloud storage or your file server, as well as a physical version in case somebody actually attacks your network or logical infrastructure and you can't access things over a network and things like that. So the incident response plan is a document that outlines the steps the organization will take, and it should be the organization's Swiss Army knife, meaning it has everything. It has comprehensive covering of all aspects of the process, the roles and the responsibilities, communication channels between stakeholders, and metrics to capture the effectiveness of the IR process. To have an effective plan, you would need to go through numerous iteration processes via creating templates and refactoring the process, and then going through lessons learned, and then rehearsals, tabletop exercises, all that stuff. And it ensures that you can ingest incident data and mitigate breaches as they occur accurately. The templates would also be valuable in creating incident reports, and accompanying an incident response plan is the use of playbooks. So the playbook is essentially inside of the incident response plan, and it would provide the organization with the actions and procedures to identify, contain, eradicate, recover, track successful incident mitigation measures, etc., etc. So the playbook is literally the play-by-play. This is what you do, and then this is what you do, and then this is what you do. This is who you call, and then this is who you call, and this is what you do. Like step-by-step, play-by-play. That's what the playbook does. So what is an observed occurrence within a system? That is an event, right? It's not necessarily malicious. What is described as a violation of security policies and practices? That would be an incident. Under which incident response phase do organizations lay down their procedures? And that would be something that I have not answered yet. So laying down of the procedures, I think it would happen in preparation, right? Because we're technically talking about that. Yeah, so the laid down procedures. And that would be in our preparation phase, because we're talking about preparation. And my keyboard disconnected because it goes to sleep. Preparation. There we go. Cool. All right, here we go. Moving on to, actually one more question. Under which phase will an organization resume business operations fully in update? So that would be recovery and lessons learned. Awesome. Cool. Now we can move on to people and documentation preparation. There's something that I've said over very many videos, honestly, and it's the fact that the people are the weakest link in the security chain. The human element is the most sensitive element of the security chain, which means that if the people aren't prepared, if the people aren't trained, it doesn't matter how great your technology is, because some schmuck somewhere can do something, click on something, open something, let a random stranger into the building. Like there's just so many different ways that the people in the company can make a mistake where it would be like, okay, well, There we go. Now we did all this work, we did all this preparation, and this freaking person, I almost started cursing. This person ended up making a severe mistake, and now all of our technology couldn't save us because of what the actions of this one person were. So preparing the people is really freaking important in this whole process. So it's highly known that the easiest and most acceptable attack point for the organization is its people. Basically what I just said. Your employees and teammates are adversarial targets mainly through social engineering and phishing tactics. Therefore, preparing your team effectively is essential. So the creation of the CCERT team, and the CCERT team is the Cybersecurity Incident Response Team. That includes the business, technical, legal counsel, and public relations experts with relevant skills and authority to act upon decisions during a cyber attack. The team's creation, so after you create the team, the members will require appropriate permissions under a well-established access control policy. And this access must be well organized and controlled with proper notifications to system admins when the CCERT uses privileged access. Once the team has been created, and we need to go through training and assessment sessions. So as we've identified some ways attackers target people, the most effective way to ensure they are well equipped with knowledge about these attacks is through constant training, assessment, awareness sessions, tabletop exercises, rehearsals, pen tests, etc. Conducting social engineering campaigns, testing user susceptibility towards spear phishing attacks, and providing current affairs training will be crucial to preparing the people. And this also applies to the end users and customers who would act as your sensors and alert sources when they pick up anything suspicious happening on their end. In this case, training content like phishing analysis module that we provide would be vital to internal and external stakeholders to know how to detect and respond to phishing attacks. Additionally, incident handlers must be familiar with forensic imaging tools to read audit logs, performing analysis using honeypots and vulnerable systems, and it'll still allow them to identify suspicious events when they occur and conduct practical forensics when the need arises. So before we move on to documentation, one of the key pieces right here is the end users and customer training. And part of your end users will, the customers themselves, obviously the clients and everything are a part of your end users because they're using your services and maybe even your systems. But the end users are the brand new employees that come in that are just, for a lack of a better phrase, they're kind of just one of the cogs in the system. They're one of the cogs in the wheels, one of the gears that make this whole massive system run. And it just so happens that if that one gear, no matter how small that gear is, if that one gear fails, the entire system fails. So keep that in mind, right? So let me give you a visual of this because I think it's very powerful. Cybersecurity, or security in general, is very much like this very complicated system with all of these cogs and gears and everything that's going on over here. And every employee inside of a company, no matter how big or small their role is, no matter how important their responsibilities are, is one of these little gears or these cogs in the system. And the way that you can look at cybersecurity or security in general is that even if it's a brand new person that just came in, they don't have a lot of responsibility, and they're the little wheel right here, this little gear right here. Even if that one person does something wrong and they click on something that they shouldn't, or they do something that they shouldn't, then the entire system will now stop working. The entire system is at risk if even the smallest piece of this thing is out of place, or it breaks, or it does something that it shouldn't do. And that's the best way that you can think about incident response, security analysis, security preparation, penetration testing, anything that you want to think about when it comes down to security. So on that note, it's very important to train every single end user. It's very important to train the customers because they're technically end users. And on that same sentiment, you'll see a lot of little flyers going out, emails going out, training for the customers, for the actual bank customer, to just let them know, hey, be aware of this, right? Be aware of these things that are happening. Be aware of these scams. Be aware of these new tactics that are taking place and these scanners at these grocery stores that may not look legitimate. That's why they created the tap feature of a credit card, where instead of sliding it or inserting your credit card, you just tap it, because the elements of the credit card machine that actually can scan it can sometimes be impersonated, I guess I should say, or they could be spoofed, and you can insert your card in a place that was like a little attachment to that machine, and now it's scanning your credit card information. But the scanning of the tap of there, like that just kind of like digital scan, it's a little bit tougher to impersonate or to spoof. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. So the best recommendation, which gives the end users and the customers the most incentive, is to attach some kind of incentive plan for them to actually complete this training, right? So if you go through this training that we have, then you'll get an extra 10% off of all of the merchandise, right? If you go through this training that we have, then we'll give you a 10-cent raise or like a 25-cent raise or something. And it's like, it's literally them just completing a bunch of videos as the employees of the company, but each video that they complete, they'll get a raise. And this was actually something that I think it was either at AT&T when I worked there, or it was definitely one of the companies that I worked at, where it's like, if you actually completed the training, all of the video training and everything like that, you would get a raise, an actual dollars and cents raise that would be applied to your hourly rate. And people were ecstatic about it, because it's like, yeah, what? All I have to do is just go through these videos and things like that. So the key thing to make sure people are retaining the information is to make sure that you have examinations and like tests assigned to those videos, so that they're not just watching videos or not even watching them. They just play the video and then the video ends and they got credit for it. So you want to make sure that there's some kind of exam that they're taking, or that can prove that they've gotten it. And of course, run the exercises regularly and rehearsals and things like that, to just make sure that they're fully aware and they're really internalizing the information. And that way you can kind of rest assured that the people are getting trained regularly. And a new hire is the most important person when it comes down to this concept, and making sure that the new hire is really educated on this is also very, very important. So preparing the documentation. Incident documentation would be a lifesaver for the organization. The information gathered here could be used as evidence in a cybercrime attack, or instrumental in developing mitigation plans, lessons learned assessments. And this means that the incident responders need to develop note-taking and detail-oriented skills. And I always talk about having an audio recorder present and getting the permission, obviously, to actually do this, so that you're not missing anything through writing down or typing or something like that. You are literally recording everything, and then it could be compiled at the end of it using the audio recording, and somebody could just sit there and take really, really detailed notes. And that would be one person that would have access to the audio recorder, not every single person. And it's usually the person that's preparing the document for everybody else that would get the opportunity, the permission to record the entire meeting, and then use that recording to create the document. Defining principles and guidelines for security processes is vital while conducting the preparation. This ensures that techniques are well known towards handling an incident. It needs to be visible to employees, users, and other stakeholders, for example, through warning banners, which would inform on the prohibition of unauthorized activities and limit the presumption of privacy within the organization. The policy should outline the organization's authority towards monitoring and network and all the systems under its roof. Policies would need to be reviewed by a legal team and aligned to local privacy laws and regulations. Communicating the plan, or the communication plan, and chain of custody. So when something happens, there's something called a call tree, meaning essentially the group of people that need to be contacted. They have to be contacted. And usually a call tree means call this person first, and then call this next person, and then call this next person, because the first person that gets called most likely has a lot of responsibility to do with handling of the incident, and the people after that just need to be in the know. So the CSIRT team, the Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, should be the point of contact, and what procedures should be followed. For example, They may have operations members who are always on call to receive reports on suspected incidents. These reports should trigger a chain of actions, including when to notify law enforcement, media personnel, or third parties, hence the call tree, right? Additionally, the team would keep track of the flow of information and manage evidence forms and documents like the chain of custody documents. These documents are meant to track the flow of information, evidence handling, and reporting when addressing any incident. A template of like this could actually be downloaded from here, which is what we actually have at the top. I'll review that at the very end for you. And then we have the response procedures. So this is an organizational operation, and it ensures every member has a role to avert damages and revert to normal operations. This means that default procedures need to be defined and approved by management. Default meaning this is the baseline, right? This is the bare minimum of what needs to be done. Effectiveness and timeliness are crucial when security defenses have been breached. Hence, the incident response element is like it has to be. You have to be quick, right? You need to be well trained. You need to know what to do, where to go to get your information, where to get your next steps. You need to be well rehearsed so that you're not fumbling, you're not panicking, right? Orderly processes would determine the nature of handling breaches, right? Not panicking. Orderly means be cool, calm, and collected and know exactly what you're doing. Be organized, right? It's very, very important. So a group that handles events during events involving cybersecurity breaches, compromising individuals. So that would be our cybersecurity incident response team. And which documents would be used to accompany any evidence collected and keeps the track of. So this would be the chain of custody documents. And there's that, and that's it. Okay, so let's look at the template that they gave us, and let's see if we can actually open this in our browser. Yes, we can, because it is a PDF. Excellent. Oh, that's so basic, dude. Okay, so this is the evidence form, right? So this is like a chain of custody form. And so, you know, the item number, the number of, or the volume, like the quantity of that item, the description of it, so includes details like the make, model, serial number, da-da-da-da-da. And then chain of custody is, you know, who was the first person that got it, and then who did they release it to, who did they hand over custody to, and then who was that person that received it, and then the purpose, etc., etc. And of course, they sign off on it. And then when we're talking about digital forensics, there's also the hash values, the checksums, the MD5 hash value or the SHA-256 hash value of those digital assets that would determine the integrity of those assets. So as I pass it on to person B, I would document this was the hash value that we just took together, and then he's going to sign off on that hash value. And then as it goes from person B to person C, that hash value should stay the same. And then as it moves on, right? And then if in any part of that chain the hash value changes, then we're like, okay, between these two people, something happened. So somebody did something, and then we need to now go and investigate, and we need to go ahead and, you know, interview those people and see, okay, what just went down? You know, what were you doing? What did you do when you took responsibility for this? When you took custody of this? So very, very important form, the chain of custody form, and they use this in a lot of police stations. I mean, every police station actually does this, so I should rephrase that. Every police station does this. Every authority that actually handles evidence does this, because it's very important to ensure that chain of custody was not broken on its way from the crime scene to ultimately the court proceedings, the legal proceedings where they review that evidence. We need to make sure that the evidence was not tampered with. So that is what we have for the chain of custody form. Now let's go into the preparation of technology. Once you have the people trained and you have your documents prepared and everything in those regards is all good, it's time to actually look at the technology and being aware of the assets inside of your network, inside of your company, the enterprise, whatever that may be, being aware of the various versions of them. It goes into very granular detail. So it's not just about, okay, how many computers do we have? It's like, okay, well, what types of computers do we have? How old are they? Have they been patched? What kind of operating system are they running? What are their maximum capacities as far as the operating systems that they can support, because a lot of times the hardware will determine what kind of software that machine can actually support. And then if it's super outdated hardware, then we need to address the fix for that, or at the very least to be prepared that these specific sets of computers are the oldest that we have, therefore they are the highest likely to be targeted by an attack, and etc., etc., etc. So there's a lot of details that goes into the inventory or the classification of your assets, and then to be able to identify the highest value assets within the organization with the technical composition would be the first step. So the most critical systems, this is our main file server. It houses all of our files and all of our intellectual property. We don't have a backup for this, and if this crashes, we're screwed, right? So it's like when you look at the highest value asset, that would be the thing. And then what is it made of? What kind of technical composition does it have? What kind of operating system? What kind of hardware, etc. So it'll comprise the infrastructure, intellectual property, clients and employee data, brand reputation. Protecting these assets ensures that the confidentiality, integrity, availability of the organization, services, data, and processes are intact, which also helps maintain credibility. Additionally, the asset classification will be helpful for prioritization of protective and detective measures for the assets. So this is just one version of this. This is an example of this. So we have a mail server, a web server, a VPN server, and then the software. So the mail server 1 is on Windows Server 2019. This is the IP address. The web server is on Ubuntu 20.04, and that's the IP. And then the VPN is at the same Ubuntu, different IP, right? And then you have the THM math books, which I guess is kind of like QuickBooks, I guess, and then software for truck finder, right? So technical instrumentation. So once you have your assets, once you've identified the assets, you need to understand the telemetry about the network infrastructure, which is essential for incident response. And this means mapping every network device, cloud platform, system, and application. And having that picture simplifies the implementation of the system and sensor-based detection mechanisms. So these mechanisms right here include the anti-malware, endpoint detection response, data loss prevention, intrusion detection prevention systems, log collection capabilities like a SIM tool. And one aspect of this telemetry collection is the network subnetting. This means logically grouping the network devices and the IP addresses with specific access and usage permission and policies utilizing firewalls, demilitarized zones, IP segmentation. This telemetry and incident details can be collected and tracked using tools like the Hive. However, the Hive may have been updated since the release of this specific room that was created for us. So if we look at it, it may not be, so the video that exists on our channel for the Hive is also based on this room, and it was created over 1,000 days ago. So it's approximately 3 years old, right? So this is not this specific version of this room that we can see right here. And this is the version of the room that the video on this channel exists on. So when we think about the version of the Hive, it's most likely the current version that you would be looking at is much more modern than the version from that video. So this is kind of essentially what it looks like, right? So this is where you can start building your asset inventory, and you start looking at the various network segments, etc., etc. The Hive, as the name kind of implies, is very similar to the hive of a bunch of bees, right? So it has a bunch of different segments. It has a bunch of different individual parts to it, and there's a million bees that are working inside of it. So the investigation capabilities would also be another thing that we would look at under the technical preparations. So looking at the investigation during an attack or a breach, the incident responders have to ensure that they can validate executing scripts and installers on all of the endpoints, the hosts within that network, and implement technical capabilities to facilitate the containment analysis and replication of the attack that took place. There should be a means of collecting forensic evidence using disk and memory imaging tools, secure storage only accessible to the CCERT, and of course analysis tools like sandboxes. Accompanying these efforts should be an incident handling jump bag, which is a very interesting concept. Excuse me, I'm kind of hiccuping. This bag contains all the necessary tools for the incident response. It's kind of like your go bag when you're a spy, and at a moment's notice you need to, and not even just a spy. I feel like everybody that is anybody should have a go bag. Pregnant people always have a go bag. My sister recently gave birth, and before she had to go to the hospital, she had this like duffel bag that was filled with a bunch of stuff that they may or may not need, but it's better to be prepared. And then as soon as the water breaks, you got to run out, right? And just like her go bag, the jump bag usually should have the very basic sets of things, right? So it can be customized to each individual person that has their own jump bag, but for the most part, you need to have media drives to store evidence that's being collected. You need to have disk imaging and host forensic software like the Forensic Toolkit Imager, Encase, and the Sleuth Kit. Network tap to mirror and monitor traffic, cables and adapters like USB, SATA, or SATA, card readers to accommodate common scenarios, and PC repair kits that include screwdrivers and tweezers and things like that. Copies of incident response forms and the chain of custody and things like that. So these are the basics, like these are the minimum requirements. And when you study for cybersecurity, CompTIA CYSA Plus, there's actually a specific list of things that they think you should have as far as the preparation for CYSA is concerned. So there's usually a general series of tools and documents and things like that are just absolutely necessary. And things like the cables and adapters is in there. A media imager like the FTK imager is in there. Having tags is listed in there. Having crime tape is listed in there. Having a camera is listed in there. So there are things that are just absolutely necessary that you need to have in your jump bag, as they say, is your incident response bag, right? So what would a kit containing the necessary incident handling tools be called? We literally just talked about it. So that would be the jump bag. All right, so let's talk about visibility, and we actually have a virtual machine that we need to start on this as well. So let's get that going. Once the people, processes, and technology checks for the incident response effort are taken care of, you have to know what's happening with the organization's digital assets, and this ensures that you avoid digital obliviousness by having visibility across the network. So what does visibility mean, right? So what does it entail? It covers collecting audit and log data, monitoring threat intelligence feeds on emerging adversarial tactics, techniques, and procedures. So this is all one piece right here. And ingesting vendor patch advisories. This information allows the organization to detect, identify, assess, alert, and mitigate unauthorized and abnormal activity within the network. Internal visibility revolves around the log management, and having maximum coverage should be part of the cyber resilience and incident handling strategies. In contrast, external visibility entails being aware of what's happening with the community and the threat landscape. So when we look at internal visibility, we're looking at the audit and log data, and then external would be threat intelligence feeds on the TTPs, and then ingesting the vendor patch advisories. That would be external. If you achieve maximum visibility, there's a lot of benefits to it, right? So providing factual information about access to resources, times of access, and who conducted the activity. This is all log information. Visibility through log management can improve the effectiveness of the processes, policies, and procedures. With log data collected, incidents can be handled using concrete evidence instead of guessing. Compliance with regulations is made to be easier with the collection of log data. Keeps you up to date with emerging threats, TTPs, and signatures, and of course ensures that the systems are patched up regularly. So visibility via logs. There's a very powerful tool called a SIM. It's also known as the Security Information Event Management Solution. So Splunk is one of them. Elk Stack is another one. There's a lot of really, really good ones. Splunk is a paid version, although they do have kind of like a limited free tier. The Elk Stack, Elastic Stack, is actually open source. The last time I checked, it was fully open source and available to anybody who wanted to use them. And there's a lot of different ways that you can also just look at event viewer logs And I believe that Mac OS also has its own version. For whatever reason, the name is not available to my brain right now, but I know for a fact that it exists. So logs must be secured from any modification once they've been recorded, because if somebody can erase their tracks inside of a log, then that's all they need to do. It's like they come, they do whatever they want, and they erase the log. It's like, no. So additionally, a CSIRT team member should be aware that the collection of logs enables the other stages of incident response to be smoothly, correctly run. So these are the common types of log entries, and you want to enable them and monitor them. So the event itself, right? So it records the information about a system or network occurrence, like the login attempt, application events, and network traffic, which is why we have the event viewer on Microsoft Windows. The audit logs, and these are a sequential recording of activities within a system, capturing who performed an action, what activity was initiated, and how the system responded. There are two classes of audit logs: the success audit and the failure audit. So if something was successfully audited, that means that activity was ran correctly, or it was ran successfully, I should say. That means whatever the result of that activity was actually did happen. If there's a failure log, that means it didn't happen. So success log for somebody logging in means that they were able to successfully log in. Failure audit would mean that they were not able to successfully log in. Then there is the error log. So when a problem occurs within the system, like there's a service failure, the event would be recorded as an error. And then there's the debug log. During the testing of systems and services, debug logs are recorded to help find problems and facilitate troubleshooting. And then there's individual application logs and software logs that are also very important. And all of those, there are literally dozens of different types of logs. These are just the most important, or the most relevant, I guess, that they felt to mention inside of this specific room. The keyword here is that this is a common list of logs. This is not the extensive full list of logs. The log entries would be sourced from various avenues within the infrastructure. So that would be the network, right? Anything that's going on with network devices like switches, routers, and through the packet capture solutions. And then we have host perimeter logs. So these are facilitated by firewalls, proxies, and VPN servers. It's the perimeter around the hosts. They contain information about allowed and denied actions transmitted to the organization's host devices. And then there's the system log, which actually is the logs of the system being run by the operating system. And then the application log, as I just mentioned, so it would be something by Google Chrome, for example. That would be an application log for Chrome. So web applications, cloud services, databases, and proprietary tools. All of these logs come into the SIM, which would be Splunk, for example, or Elk Stack, Elastic, right? So these are all log sources, and then they come in one location and they're ingested together. And then the SIM tool would end up ingesting all of these, normalizing the data, meaning like it will extract all the IP addresses and everything. And then what it'll do is that it'll try to find correlations between the events from this log, and then see how those events actually correlate to each other, and does this IP address show up in multiple logs? You know what I'm saying? And then based on that correlation, it'll raise alerts to you and say, hey, listen, I think there's something going on with this specific IP address. You need to go look into this. There's something called security orchestration and automation response, which is I would say the second half of the SIM tool. And it works with the SIM. The SIM doesn't automatically respond to anything. The SOAR tool automatically responds. So if you want a response mechanism, then you would use a SOAR tool as well as the SIM tool. But if you're just using a SIM, then it's up to the security analyst, the human that's on duty that day, that would respond to what's going on. So setting up visibility, we are going to do it today with this virtual machine that we have been assigned. It's definitely been 4 minutes since I started reading this whole thing, so I think by now it should definitely be up and running. And as we have identified the sources and data types, the CSIRT has developed procedures and plans for setting up the right tools and configurations within the system, outlined in asset inventory, and then collect and aggregate all the necessary logs. On Windows, Security policies can be configured via local or group policy management, with the latter being used for multiple systems under Active Directory. So we're going to look at an example of setting up the policies for interactive logon sessions, which have yet to be defined, as you can see. So once the VM has loaded, we're going to go to the Windows admin tool and then go to the local security policy settings and then navigate to the policy by doing security settings, yada, yada, yada. And then once there, we'll find that the policy interactive logon display user information is locked and has not been defined. And this aims to set the standard of whether to show user login identities, such as username, domain account, email, when the session logged. For sensitive systems, such as those used by the finance or human resources departments, it's important to set this policy to the option that does not display any user information to prevent malicious actors from knowing whose credentials were last used. And the events that take place within those systems, do they need to be logged? And I would say, yeah. So you can pivot to the linked room to uncover more about Windows event logs. And looking at the scenario, you can find out about the organization did not implode Windows event log monitoring. The network systems have event logging disabled, which is integral to ensuring visibility, as adversaries may take advantage of the situation and cause havoc. So how do we resolve this? We would open the event viewer, and then you will be welcomed with a warning banner that the event log service is unavailable. This means that the registry records for the service have been modified and need to be changed to enable it. So then we will go to the registry by going to Windows Admin Tools Registry Editor, and then we need to get to this specific path. And you'll find that the registry key is set to 4, which needs to be set to 2, representing putting the service into automatic startup mode. Modify the registry and reboot the system for the changes to take effect, which should take approximately 3 minutes. So rebooting the system, I'm assuming we would be doing like within the system. We're not restarting the virtual machine. Once the system has been rebooted, you can open the Windows Event Viewer and confirm that it works. We can test that the system is recording by logs by using some atomic red team tests, which have been already downloaded and installed to simulate an incident. Open PowerShell and run the following command. We're going to run this test using atomic red team, which is the pure locker ransom note. And so when we actually run test number 5 from that, we're going to probably lock something and put a ransom note on the desktop, I think. And so once we do that, the application service log, yada, 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 we'll get to the operational log for sysmon, and we can confirm that the test was successful and log entry was created by searching for it, and then we can use find to identify the event due to influx of logs being recorded since the service was enabled. What is the event ID for the file created rule? File created is 11, I want to say. Let me just type it. I want to see if I remember this, right? So 11 is file created. Yeah, okay. So event ID 11 is for file creation. We did a bunch of stuff with the event viewer for the last like 5 videos. So I've gotten a pretty good familiarization with the event IDs. Under software restriction policies, what's the default security level? I don't know. Find the audit policy folder under local policies. What setting has been assigned to the policy? Okay, that I need to find out by actually opening up this virtual machine that we started a few minutes ago. So we're going to zoom out of this bad boy here. We're going to click show split view right there. And then it's going to open up our Windows machine, I'm assuming. Yes, and then I'm going to open this up in a full screen so that you can actually see what's going on. So that way we don't have to work with only half the screen. And let me zoom out again. And here we go. So we have our Windows machine here. And I'm just going to open up the tasks inside of the second monitor that I have so that I can kind of follow everything that they just outlined so we can actually run everything and get the results that we would need to get those questions answered. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to go to the security settings for interactive logon. So we're going to click on the start menu at the bottom left right here. And you can literally just start typing. As you open up the start menu, you can just start typing. And I will do, Windows Administrative Tools. There we go. So there it is. So we're going to open that up. And then once we are inside of that, we need to navigate to the local security policy. So the way that we would do this is we go to security settings, which should be under S right here, or is it not? So system and security admin tools, right? That's what it says, local security policy settings. So we can navigate to security settings, local policies. And so this should be in, I don't see security settings right here. So that's the issue that I have here. So let's see local security policy. That's probably what we're looking for here. So local policies, local security policies. Maybe it's like it's a little bit different because of the version of the computer or something. That's the only reason that I can presume that it doesn't have it. So local policies, we can see that there was a lock right here. Security options has also been locked, and we need to go in here. And then inside of security options, we need to find that interactive logon. There's a bunch of them. So we're looking for interactive logon, display user information when the session is locked, which is display user information when session is locked right here. And it's not defined. So we can then open this policy. And then in here, we need to set do not display the user information. That's basically what they want us to do. So we do that, and then we click on apply and OK. And now we actually have a security policy that has been enabled or defined, I should say. We have a security policy that's been defined for that interactive logon. The next piece is to go to our event viewer and verify that, obviously it's not running. So I'm going to click on the event viewer button. It's this button right here. When we click on event viewer, we should get that pop up. Yeah, it says event log service is unavailable. Verify that the service is running. So we're going to go ahead and I'll just close it again. And then we're going to go to the registry editor to be able to modify this. And so this is also inside of Windows Administrative Tools. I think I can even just type in registry editor. There you go. So we're going to go inside of registry editor. And then for registry editor, we need to go to this path that they had, like this long path, which is the H key, local machine, system, current control set, services, event log, etc. So when we go over here, you can actually see this right here. So you have H key, local machine, system, current log set, services, event log, right? And I mean, it's literally, it's pretty much exactly where it needs to be. So the one other thing I need to do is just modify the start element right here. So if I double click this, the value is set to 4, and we just need to set it to 2 so that it actually starts. And so we do that, and that's basically it. So you go click on this, and then if I click on the event viewer one more time, it should now, oh no, I need to reboot the system. That's what I need to do. So I set the registry value. So what I need to do is go here and then restart the system. So this is very interesting. I wonder if this is actually going to ask me for like a login again. But let's see. Okay, so basically when I clicked restart, there was a pop-up that came on the screen that said reconnect, and I clicked reconnect, and then it kind of just went through the motions, and it didn't ask me for a logon or anything. So now I will open up my event viewer, and event viewer is actually working. Okay, great. So there we go. Now we actually have event viewer working. So the log that we are interested in for this test exercise that we're going to be running using Atomic Red Team is going to be the sysmon log. So to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to first open up PowerShell, and I'm going to prepare everything for that exercise. So the test itself was, what number did it say? Oh yeah, T1486. So the way that we can look at this is we do invoke atomic test, okay, and we give it the test number 1486, for example. And the one that we're running specifically is the number 5. So I will do -5. And then instead of doing a show details brief, I'm just going to do show details because I want to see the full details of this test. And so when you do that, it gives you everything, including the basic data like the name, the description, etc. And it's going to build the indicator of compromise your files.txt for the pure locker ransomware. And then there's a reference link to it. And this is the command that's going to run. It's echo T1486 pure locker ransom node. And then it's going to just put that inside of the URL file on the desktop on the URL files. And that's basically it. Obviously, I don't think it's going to do anything to the actual system itself, because usually ransom involves encrypting all of the data. So thankfully, it's not going to. Maybe it is. I'm not even sure. But the command itself isn't implying that it's going to encrypt anything. So anyways, and then there's the cleanup command that, we will just invoke that command when we run this with the cleanup command itself. So, all right, there we go. We have the details of that, and then we're going to end up just running the fifth. So right here, before I press enter on this, I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to, for the hell of brevity and to just make sure that it's a little bit easier to manage, I'm going to go into Microsoft, I'm going to go into Windows, and then this is going to be a full list of our logs, and then we're just going to go to sysmon right here. It's under S, and then we're going to open up operational, and then we can see that there's 62,000 freaking events in here. So to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to clear the log, and you normally don't do that, by the way. Just keep that in mind. You don't want to wipe your logs. That's just, you always want to have those things, but to make life easier, we're going to do that. So now I'm going to run the test, and there we go. It ran it, and now there should actually even be a file on the desktop that's been created. There we go, your file that encrypted, or the txt file or whatever. And now we can see that we actually have new events that are available. So we're going to click on refresh, and it's going to show us our new events, and we have 55 events now. So the question says, what does the question say? It says, under software restriction policies, what is the default? Oh, okay. Find the audit policy folder under local policies. What setting has been assigned? Okay. Okay. So none of them have to do with the freaking test. I guess we're just trying to see that the event log is actually working, the event log viewer. And it is, so the event log viewer is working. And we see details about the T1543 technique, service creation, etc., etc. So great. All right, cool. So I didn't even need to do any of this to answer any of the questions. So whatever, we did it. So now just to make sure that, let's actually look at the ransom note and see what's inside the ransom note. Pure lock or ransom note. That's all it says. All right, fantastic. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to run cleanup now to just make sure that we clean up after ourselves. And what that's going to do is it's just going to delete that ransom note. Excellent. Perfect. All right, cool. Now we can go to the question at hand here. It says under software restriction policies, and that would be under the Windows administrative stuff. So we're going to do, there's also a shortcut right here. So Windows administrative tools, we're going to go and click on that. It'll open it up, and we're looking for software restriction policies. What's the default policy? So local security policy is what we're going to go into, I would presume. And what did I do? I think I changed the view into, so local security policy, there it is. And we're going to open up local security, and then we have software restriction. And then it says, what is the default security level assigned to all of the policies? So security levels, there we go. And default for all policies. Okay, so once we open them, I just opened all of them, and the first two said it's not the default, and then the last one, unrestricted, says that this is the default security level. So the default security level for all of them is unrestricted. There we go. Now find the audit policy folder under local policies. What setting has been assigned to the policy audit logon events? So we're going to go back to local policies here, and let's go right. It says under audit policy under local policy. So we're going to go to local policies and audit policy. There it is. And it says, what is it? Setting has been assigned to audit logon events. So audit logon events, it says failure. That is the policy that's been assigned. So failure. Excellent. And we are officially done answering these questions. So let's just wrap it up. So in conclusion, as a review, we went through the preparation phase of the incident response cycle. And we talked about preparing the human beings. We talked about preparing technology and documentation. And then, of course, the people, documentation, technology. That's basically what it is. And then we talked about visibility to just make sure that you need to have everything that is of note, the most important assets, the most important data, all of those things should be visible, meaning they should be logged. like all of the information that's going on within those assets for those endpoints, all of it needs to be logged so that it's visible to you, the security person, and to the rest of the security team, so that in case, in case an incident happens, God forbid, hopefully it doesn't, whatever, but sometimes it does. So in case something like that happens, you need to be aware of it. And it could be something as simple as an error. It doesn't even need to be something that actually is a hacker attacking you, right? At the very beginning, we talked about, there could be a malicious hacker or malicious actor that's attacking you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could just be that the system crashed. And if you don't know why it crashed, you're going to have a problem fixing it and preventing it from happening again in the future. So that's why it should be visible. That's why there should be a log that's associated with it, and that would fall under the error log, right? So the system crashed. Why did the system crash? We need to find out. So it's not always that there's a hacker that got into your network or that got into your system. Sometimes it could just be that the system, for whatever reason, it glitched and it crashed, and we need to now find out why. So all of these things are very important, and all of these things fall under the preparation phase of the incident response cycle. Now, that we have taken care of that, we can actually move on to the next phase of the incident response cycle, which is going to be in the next video, which is identifying and scoping, identification and scoping. But apart from that, we are officially done. I'm going to click complete on this thing right here, and we're going to have our little success pop up, and that's pretty much it. To get more videos like this one and to continue with us as we go through the SOC level 2 pathway and complete everything else with incident response and everything else that's left in SOC level 2, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out. And of course, there's new playlists that are also coming out, which seems to be the CompTIA Pentest Plus, which is a very, very big one. It's been highly requested by a lot of people. Of course, this is the hacking community, so I would presume that people want to know about penetration testing. And once we are done with SOC level 2, what's going to happen is that we're going to move into I'm going to be like focused on the Pentest Plus stuff, and then we're going to begin the AI for cybersecurity. So I just need to make sure that all of the foundations were set for everybody to be able to handle AI for cybersecurity, and then we're going to jump into AI for cybersecurity, which is something that I'm personally super excited about. So that is pretty much it. So if you have any comments or questions, drop them in the comment section below. I always love hearing from everyone in the community, and then of course I will respond to your questions as they come in. And please make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out in SOC level 2, in CompTIA Pentest Plus, in AI for cybersecurity, and in everything else that we're going to talk about on this channel, because I really want to make sure that this is the best channel that exists on YouTube for cybersecurity and hacking and all of that good stuff. So super excited to have you with me. And again, like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you get notified the next time that a video comes out. Yeah. If you're serious about your CySec education and want access to me on Discord, consider joining Hackaholics Anonymous. We have 4 tiers: the supporter, agent, guardian, and master. Each tier gets their own Discord server and early access to content. The agent, guardian, and master levels get exclusive content, exclusive downloads, monthly Python automations, live streams with me every month, plus so much more. And to join, you can simply click the link in the description below, or you can go to our homepage and click the join button there, or you can go to youtube.com/@HankHacksHackers/join, and you will be able to join Hackaholics Anonymous. I hope I see you in the Discord chats. If not, I hope I see you in the comment section. And that is it for today. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker/protector. If no one else loves you, Hank loves you. Love, peace, and chicken grease, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.